Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
We can meet our destiny to build a land here that will be for all mankind a shining city on a hill.
You're listening to the Liberty Brothers Radio Show, only on Revolution Radio. Now, here are your hosts, Jim White and Jason Van Tatenhove.
The crusade for freedom is your chance and mine to fight communism.
Please hang up and try again.
All right, and welcome again to the Liberty Brothers Radio Show on this special Labor Day edition. We are here live with you. Got a pretty good show lined up for you today. We were able to get General Vallely on here coming up shortly on short notice. Thanks to Jim. Thanks, Jim, for setting that one up. And we also have the general attorney, the public general attorney, Jeff Ball, joining us. And this guy is a pretty incredible guy. He's just a wealth of knowledge. We met him down in Bundyville. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing well. Great. Happy Labor Day for all those out there in the listening world. You don't have to thank me, Jason. It's power to the people, brother. I'm doing it all for the cause of liberty. I'm glad to have General Vallely able to come on. He's a friend of mine, and I was able to call him here just only about 20, 30 minutes ago and asked him if he could come on. And he said, yeah, give me a call. He can't stay long. He's getting ready, I know, to go out of town. But we'll have him on for maybe 10, 15 minutes and get it caught up on what's going on. Really, over there, that whole powder keg over there with, you got ISIS going on over there. You've got the Ukraine thing going on.
You got Russia saying you really don't want to mess with a nuclear Russia. So, and they don't really make threats. They just kind of do what they say. So,
yeah, they do. And just a small correction for you, my brother. Jeff is a private attorney general. I think you said he's a public. I think you say he's a public attorney general. He's a private attorney general.
Okay.
Which is really a pretty unique thing. I'm looking forward to having him on and talking about that. I don't think that many people know very many private attorney generals. I would think that's not really. I'd never really met one before I met him.
Yeah,
I don't know about you, Jason, but
another correction.
I don't think there's a whole lot of them, but they got. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say another correction is you've got me actually saying Bundyville. It's Bunkerville, where Clive and Bundy lives. But yeah, we both are saying it now. So
yeah, well, it's like what? It's like one of those things. Unless you actually been to Vietnam, you can't use the term Nam. So I guess unless you haven't been down to Bundyville, you can't use the term Bundyville. So I think we can use that.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, and we actually met Jeff down there. And he was down there with some alternative media, some real interesting people. And he was a wealth of knowledge. And didn't he even help out with the Ren Bodecker case?
That's a darn good question. I know that he and his posted a video on Northwest Liberty News here, I don't know, 10 days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, where he was with Renee from... I can't remember where she's from. She has her own radio show as well. I can't remember the name of the organization that she's with right now. I put it in the video, I believe. But yeah, I think the title of the video was something, "Is it time for a citizen's grand jury?" So I think they specialize in that as well. As far as Ren goes, I don't know if they actually helped him or not. I wish I had an answer to that. It reminds me, I really got to call Ren and see how he's doing. I know he raised a pretty good amount of money. For he had there was a raffle for an AK-47 to benefit him, and I think with 500 rounds of ammo, and he did pretty well on that because they're trying to help him up.
Now, for the people who don't know possibly who Ren is, maybe we should give them a little background as to the Ren Bodecker story.
Ren Bodecker is really literally a living war hero, and I don't just say that lightly. He was one of the guys that parachuted into Los Banos prison camp on the very morning. Actually, the very morning, I believe there was 2,230 prisoners that were going to be executed, and he parachuted in. I want to say like an hour before the actual execution, and they was able to rescue like all 20. 300 prisoners, and the only person that got injured was one woman got shot like in the gut, but it wasn't really serious enough. So I mean, literally, they got 2,300 people out of there without any casualties, and they were an hour away from being executed. So yeah, it was. He literally is a living war hero. He's 91, 92. And yeah, Jason, he made the trip with us down to when we drove down there. He drove and he was like a trooper, man. He drove all the way down.
Yeah, he wanted to keep going all the way. The whole week we were there, week and a half. How long were we there? I don't know. I don't even remember. It was such a blur.
I don't know, like 10 days. And he gave like 2 or 3 or 4 interviews to other people while he was there. He also sat down with us. And then in the interview that I talked about previously that I posted with Jeff and Renee and he and I, yeah, so he was, I mean, I got to tell you, for being 91, 92, he was right there, man. He was right there. And I tell you, I know Jason and you do too. If it would have came down to it, he would have picked up arms and he would have defended, the Republic.
Oh, absolutely.
If necessary. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy's a war hero. And then what they were trying to do with his land that had already been patented just was criminal. It absolutely was criminal.
Yeah, it is. And there was just a court thing that came up. I think the general consensus is there's been a lot of pressure put on. I'm not exactly positive because, like I said, I have to call Ren and get caught up with him. But I believe that they're backing down some on that now. They're realizing there's a lot of pressure. Actually, the prosecutor is the same. She's the same as the trustee, and there's like a although it's technically legal for her to do that, it's not really very ethical. But what they do is they just continue to soak him for attorney's fees, and they charge it against his estate. And he's already like $100,000 in the rears because of these fees they tack on him. So they're trying to take his house. Now, I do believe his house is land patented or was, and they tried to trick him out of that. And, again, I hate to.
Yeah, we gotta get an update. We should have.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to keep making shameless plugs for my website, but I do have videos on all this stuff on Northwest Liberty News. If you go to YouTube, you can watch. Geez, I don't know. There's 3 or 4 or 5 videos with Ren Bodecker on there, and I think you can pretty much get the whole entire scoop on everything if you're interested. But yeah, we do need to get an update with Ren. He's a great guy.
And if you guys are interested, our interview with Richard Mack is up with our new and improved graphics. We got our YouTube channel going, so if you go to libertybrothers.com, you can see it there. We'll be putting the interview up with Billy Hayes and Alana Freeland with the chemtrails and HARP interview we did last week. Should be up later tonight. I've got it all processed. It's ready to go up tonight. So check out the libertybrothers.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well.
Hey, nice job on the graphics, by the way. I think everyone will see. I'm not a graphics guy. I'm not. I'm like a generalist. I don't have. I just kind of know some stuff about a lot of stuff. But as far as doing graphics, as you guys will see out there that have watched any of our previous videos, they've definitely taken a step up since Jason's taken over the graphic end of it. It's not my forte. But obviously it is Jason's, and Jason did a sweet job on that, man. Looks great.
That's what I do. So anyway, when are we going to be talking with General Valley again?
We're going to be calling General Valley in about 22 minutes, about 25 till.
All right, cool. Well, it's always a slow news cycle for the Labor Day. But, I really do think the biggest story out there is really what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine. It seems things are ratcheting up. I know there's been trading of fire. There's been a town on the outskirts leveled by artillery. Just a whole lot of stuff going down, and that coupled with all the terror threats that we've been seeing coming up from the southern border and seeing Britain, it just seems things are ratcheting up. I almost feel like this is the people in the 60s during the Cuban Missile Crisis must have, I bet it had a very similar feeling than things feel right now.
Yeah, well, the difference between the Cuban Missile Crisis, as you know, And the situation that we're facing right now is, of course, Cuba's 70 miles away from our southern border. Thankfully, the Middle East is much farther away than that. However, that being said, with the open southern border pretty much just wide open, they might as well set up a camp. They probably have. They probably have set up a camp down there and somewhere down. I mean, there's been reports of people.
There's been reports that ISIS is now active, and I want to say it's Juarez, one of the border towns there. They've confirmed that they're now active.
I'll tell you what's going to happen, man. And I fear this. I'm not calling for this. I don't want this to happen, but I'm telling you, there's enough, there's enough red, white, and blue blood running through enough American people. Well, here's what I'm fearful of, Jason, that ISIS starts these terrorist attacks, and then it becomes an all-out war on all Muslims inside the United States, and violent. I mean, I was back in Michigan back in 2000 when 9/11 happened. Okay, Michigan, as you may or may not know, Dearborn, Michigan, has one of the largest concentration of Arabs, of Arab descent, people from Arab descent outside the Middle East. Dearborn, Michigan's huge. Well, when 9/11 happened, there were reports, plenty of them, on the Detroit News. Well, I say the Detroit News, there is a Detroit News, but I mean on the news in Detroit about Muslims getting beat down and in Detroit getting beat down by people because they're Muslims. So imagine if they start doing, if ISIS starts doing that across the country, people are gonna, people react really strange, man, when it comes to that type of stuff. I mean, so it's unpredictable. You just don't know. I fear that they're gonna go after all Muslims. Now, I disagree with the Muslims' religious philosophies and background, but I don't hate Muslims. I think they're misguided. But hey, I'm not a judge of anybody. I just know that I don't want to see innocent people get beat up or killed or shot.
We do have the freedom of religion here, and that's part of the Constitution. I would fight for anyone's right to believe what they will. But
absolutely.
There have been absolutely. Actually, where was it? It was just on. I'm looking for the article now. Is on Drudge Report this morning. But there's been graffiti on 3 different churches. I want to say it was in Indiana, but basically talking about, it basically was a reference for a chapter in the Quran that talked about, what infidels have to look forward to burning, basically. So, I might have gotten knocked off. I looked at it this morning, but yeah. So, I mean, other than that, obviously things are ratcheting up. You start spray painting people's churches, and they're probably going to things are going to get more tense. And who knows? Maybe it's a psyop to get that intensity ratcheted up. I don't know. But this weekend they hit 3 churches in the same town, and not close to one another either. They seem to have been targeted. So.
Well, Jason. Here's where I look at it. The military-industrial complex, President Eisenhower warned us. I'm sure you've probably seen the speech about the military-industrial complex speech. It's been played numerous times by General Eisenhower.
Yep.
Now, as you understand, one has to understand. I mean, you can't separate the. I mean, how old are you, Jason? 42? 43? 40. I'm 45. I just turned 45. I cannot hardly remember a time in my life that there wasn't some war, some outbreak, something going on somewhere. Now, I remember, I think the first Iraq war was back in what, 1992?
No, I think it was earlier than that, because Operation Iraq, Desert Storm and Iraqi Freedom, I was in high school. I remember the day it came over the news, because we were watching Star Trek The Next Gen at my house, and they came on broke through to talk about how we were in Kuwait and things were going to war. So, and actually,
at least 20 years, at least 25 years.
Yep.
I mean, at least 25 years ago. I mean, is that fair?
Yeah. And actually, I watched it was kind of crazy. I watched a movie earlier today, The Underground, talking about Julian Assange and his younger days, and he grew up in a very nomadic home, running from these kidnappers called the Family, him and his mother, and they 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 had a very nomadic resistance, but this kid grew up, on computers, building computers, much like myself. I grew up with an electrical engineer for a stepfather, and spent my youth, instead of working on cars or whatnot, I spent it building computers. And we were doing things like building red boxes and selling them in Greenwich Village when I was in high school, things like that. But so there were a lot of parallels I saw in some of the things Julian Assange was doing with his kind of high school group of friends, and I was doing. I had friends of mine that were arrested for hacking phone companies and whatnot. I never really. The worst I got into it was doing the red boxes and doing those, and the worst we got done to us was we had. We worked all summer one summer building these red boxes, which, if you're not familiar with what a red box is, basically when you used to put a quarter into a payphone, you'd hear that da-da-da-da. That was the computer on the phone talking over the voice line to the mainframe computer, saying that each one of those duts was a nickel. And used to have these Radio Shack phone dialers that would store numbers and play the tones when you're playing it, and we would put a new crystal in there and switch it over, put a little switch in so it could switch between the two modes, and it would give you.
You are a little criminal, aren't you?
Well,
you are a criminal.
Well, I was a bit of a hacker in my younger days. That's the worst I got into it, and we had a scare, so I got scared away from it. We spent all summer putting this big order of red boxes together. My cousin lived in Jersey City, and if you don't know anything about Jersey City, it's where all the mafia kids live. And so I would spend my summers out there in New Jersey. And the summer that I graduated, '92, we put together a big order and went into Greenwich Village to meet his contact there. He went and checked it out, and then had us drive around to an alley. And of course, we're just stupid kids. We went exactly where he said. And then we had guys pull up their surround the car, pull up their shirts with guns and badges, and we were just scared out of our wits. Well, they just wound up taking the box and telling us to meet us at the police station. Of course, we were like 5 minutes later. We're like, well, they don't. When they arrest you, they don't tell you to meet you at the police station. So we got ripped off ripped off by a bunch of the mafia kids back in the day, and that's when I decided I think I'm gonna steer away from this stuff. But it was interesting to see.
A lesson well learned, Jason. A lesson well learned. Now, speaking of phone stuff, do you remember the party lines? I vaguely remember back when I was younger, you could dial like 411 or something. It was like a party line. You could talk to like random people.
Well, people up in the mountains, actually, that's all they had was party lines back in the day. Like my wife Shiloh lived up in the hills growing up in outside of Divide, Colorado, and they had to, like, their whole neighborhood, you had to check the phone line, see if someone was on it, and you could then listen into your neighbors calling other people, because it's like you had your whole neighborhood sharing one line. So.
And people are worried about privacy these days?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
I hope that didn't go on very long. I bet that's before the dial in all those phone lines that you could dial in and hear all those what are they, phone sex? Yeah, it's probably pre that. I'm sure.
I wouldn't know. I never called one, but I did actually used to hit all the billboards. I don't know if people remember, but before there was the internet launched in 93, 94, something like that. Before then, all we had to do was we had modems. We would call into billboard systems, BBSs.
I do remember BBSs. Yeah, I do remember
BBSs. I used to use BBSs quite a bit. Yes. So back in the day.
Yeah, we have certainly seen. That's it's interesting, Jason, because the times that we're growing up in right now are. Really, basically incredible. And if you look at the time, let's say, since the Industrial Revolution until 1980, okay, I mean, a lot of things came out. I think the radio came out, but then the television, mass transit. But you look between 1980 and let's say 2000, and that 20-year period, or even until 2010, that 30-year period. I mean, the amount of technological advancement is just like blow the doors off. I mean, there's going to be kids that aren't even ever going to even know what like a record is. I mean, it's just going to be like, they don't even know what it is. They have no clue.
I mean, my kids don't even know what a modem tone is. I mean, they hear it in sound clips and stuff or on old movies, but they have no idea what it is. They just think that the internet's automatically connected to computers, period.
Well, there is speaking of being connected to the internet, have you ever known anybody or done any research on these Google Glasses? I know they're pretty expensive. I'm going to say like a couple grand, I think, for these glasses. Last time I checked, anyway.
Yep.
Do you know anybody that had them, or do you know anything about them?
No, they've been in beta. I know something about them.
Why? Come on, make it. Now, what's the fear? Can you literally? And I don't know. Can you live stream? Can you like live stream stuff that you're watching? Really? Yeah, I saw that, but well, get this. We don't usually cover this type of trash on this program, but you said Apple. Did you see where the iCloud got hacked and like 100 of these celebrities had like nude photos or something pasted on some website? Uh, I never even heard of that until that's you're right. I never heard of that until I saw that story. Is it like a Reddit? Is it like Reddit? Is it kind of like that? Really? Yeah. So that's not very good for Apple, one of the largest corporations in the world, as you know. I mean, my thought is this. Here's my thought on this, and then we'll move on because it really is so insignificant that it pains me even to talk about it. But there's a lesson here for everybody. No, why would you take nude photos of yourself and post them anywhere on the internet? I don't care how secure it's supposed to be, for crying out loud. Well, let's put them on this. Yeah, no, and really, in reality, none of our credit card information is safe. None of our personal information is safe. None of our social security numbers are safe. If they've ever been put online, even one time ever, they're not safe. I mean, you're right, Jason. I mean, maybe save maybe the NSA or the Pentagon. I mean, these guys can hack into just about anywhere, man. I mean, anywhere. You can't stop these guys. I mean, these. Sounds like you got a little man love thing going there. Okay. Well, Yeah, he is. He is. Yeah, you. Are you talking about the CDC guy? Okay, yeah, Thompson. Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. That's. I mean, let's face it. And I hate to break the news to people out there if they think what I'm about to say is hyperbole. There are billions and billions of dollars at stake when it comes to pharmaceuticals and vaccines. Billions with a B. I dare say, perhaps over the course of the of vaccines history, trillions of dollars have been spent on vaccines. If you think that they're going to let one man take down an organization that has billions, I mean, these people have their own. They have their own security teams, man. That I mean, they, if you don't think that people get killed for this type of stuff, yeah, you need to stop drinking the Kool-Aid because that happens quite frequently. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm saying when I say billions, Jason, I mean you just look up the money that you look up the profits from the top 5 drug companies, Merck, GlaxoSmithKline. I can't think of them now. I tip my tongue. Anyway, you look up the top 5 drug companies, you're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars in profits. They're just not going to let that. They're not just not going to let that cash cow just die in the wind without putting up a fight. Yeah, this guy should be afraid for his life. He should be very afraid. What would be nice if about 8 or 10 other people there would come out as well. Then the whole entire house of cards would come crashing down in 2 days, which is what we need. Oh man, I just talked to him 2 days ago, and it's like a chess match. Here's the thing: when this information comes out, the person that is putting out the information, if it doesn't go exactly correctly like it should, he'll have to move. Literally, he'll have to leave town. So he is making sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. But trust. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I was sent a link to a one of the material pieces of evidence, I guess, in the case is an audio recording. Now that audio recording was transcribed, so I have a private link to a YouTube video that I can't release without proper authorization that has the audio recording, and in the background, the transcript is rolling in the background, so you can see everything that comes up on the audio. You can see it on the paper, so it's undisputable, and it is not good. It is going to make national news when it finally breaks. It will. That's my call. I think it's going to make. I could be wrong, but I think it's going to make national news. Now, as I say, it's going to be the leading story on Nightline. No, probably not. But it will be covered nationally. What's that? It might if the players involved. Yes, it might make Drudge. These are there's last week. No. I could get a call anytime. I could get a call anytime. I mean, anytime. It's really really close. It's really close. I've got another video too. I've got another contact in Bozeman, and we'll have to call the general here in a minute. I have another contact in Bozeman that I have a. I'm going to be hopefully this coming week getting a video. I don't know if I talked about this. It's a squad car video where this guy was beaten, pretty much hospitalized, beaten senseless by a cop, by a sheriff. And the one sheriff took his flashlight and shined it on the police cruiser to block out the video, and the other one beat him down like a dog and hospitalized him. So hopefully that's the next quote unquote investigative story that I'm going to be working on at Northwest Liberty News. But yeah, this one you just talked about will be first. This will be in days. It's imminent. It's imminent. I do. I'll introduce him when he comes on. So yeah, I'd like to ask him about NATO. See what he thinks.
Hello.
General.
Yeah,
Hi, General. This is Jim and Jason from the Liberty Brothers. You're live on the air. How are you today, sir?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you
You're
for
quite
calling.
You're quite welcome. Thanks for taking our call on such short notice. Joining us on the line is Paul Vallely, Major General, U.S. Army, retired. He was born in Du Bois, Pennsylvania. He retired in 1991 from the U.S. Army as Deputy Commanding General, U.S. Army, Pacific and Honolulu, Hawaii. General Vallely graduated from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point and was commissioned in the Army in 1961, serving a distinguished career of 32 years. He is also the chairman of Stand Up America. General Vallely, thanks for joining us today on the Liberty Brothers.
Well, my pleasure on this great Labor Day.
It is. It's a great Labor Day. It's a great Labor Day. General, as you see, you have your finger on the pulse of what's really going on over there in the hot zones, really. And there's a couple hot zones. We know they're in the Middle East and then one in Ukraine. My first question to you, General, is first of all, thanks for joining us today. Do you think that do you think that NATO is going to get involved in this conflict there? I know that I want to say that if I'm correct, they were. I can't think. They just joined NATO. It's on the tip of my tongue. They were. Do you think NATO is going to get involved in this conflict here in Russia?
Well, they're involved to a degree now in planning and looking at some kind of strategy over here that involves, provisions, humanitarian assistance at this point in time, and they have put some intelligence assets together to help the Ukrainians. But as far as conventional troops, I seriously doubt it. No, they joke around. I think what they want everybody to know is that they are the power over there. They have the armed forces. They have an edge on some of the energy production. A great deal of natural gas going into Europe. So you look at it from a military and an economic standpoint, they've got a lot of leverage over there. Putin's a strong leader. He knows what he's doing. He has a strategy, unlike our president. And he's going to pursue that strategy. And I think he's going to push it into Ukraine until he destabilizes it coming into the winter and force Ukraine into some kind of an agreement to come back into the Federation. I think that's his goal. And of course, he needs the land bridge down to Crimea. So he's right on his strategy, what I call a phase two. And that phase two is the destabilization of the Ukraine. And he's done that by putting troops across the border now, some 8 to 10 kilometers inside of Ukraine, along with the paramilitary and sort of the opposition forces from the Ukraine. So he's doing what he wants to do, and he's going to get away with it, I think.
General, we've heard reports here that ISIS has now set up I don't know what you say, Jason, some sort of a camp or some sort of a stronghold there, right south of our border. General, is it just a matter of time before ISIS and in a force in force comes into the United States and starts performing their dastardly deeds?
I think we're already doing it. We picked up some documents in Arabic on the Texas border 2 weeks ago. We know that not only is it the southern border, Jim, but also our seaports and our airports are borders where they're flying in with passports. To put the 300 estimated English that have gone over to ISIS, maybe some 200 Americans, mostly out of the Minnesota area, and others that will be carrying passports that come into our airport. And so that's what they do. They don't filter in, or they don't come in mass, but they filter in individuals and teams, and just like they did for 9/11. So they have a history of doing this. That's the way they do it, and they're already infiltrating our southern borders. My article this morning outlined. Yeah. Yeah, you can see the people are standing on the beach watching them. I'm just wondering, who are these people? It was absolutely unbelievable. But it's happening all the time. And that's why we have to shut down the border, except for commercial traffic. There's another article I put out, the article actually came out today, the Southern Border Strategy, if you read it. It's on our website, standupamericaus.org. But it clearly outlines the strategy that we need to take to make sure that we shut off our borders because we're going to what Joe McInerney and I call a DEFCON Defense Condition 1, which we should be at, which means that we have the highest alert status of our forces and our police. We certainly anticipate, based on some intelligence we see, that there could well be attack next week on or about September 11th in the Fort Bliss, Juarez area of Texas. And so we think if they do come in, they're going to attack our electrical grid system. They're going to attack the shopping centers where they can get mass chaos created, as well as maybe some large hotels in some place like Las Vegas to create panic and chaos. They know us, they read us well, and they know America's at its weakest now in leadership, so they will do everything to pursue their goals, whether it be in the Middle East or whether it be in Africa where the other caliphate is going on, as well as our soft underbelly of Mexico. Well, I think if you go back even to 9/11, most of the Saudis on board those aircraft were all educated for the most part, had high-tech degrees, obtained and studied in America. And of course, over the period of time since 9/11, they've had a chance to become even more sophisticated using social media. Believe me. Yeah. Sure. Sorry about that. Yeah, how's that? Is that a little better? Okay, good. Sorry about that. Where were we? Oh, we're talking about sophistication. Yeah, much more sophisticated. And of course, as they recruit around the world, they're bringing in people that they know have skills. For example, 2 weeks ago, they captured the air base inside Syria at Takba. And the question is, well, they have the MiG 21s, what are they going to do with them? Well, with the money that they've gathered, they can pay to have pilots come in from anywhere, particularly some of the Russian satellite countries, maybe even some Chechens who have air flight training. So that's what they're doing. They're recruiting the sophisticated people. You notice they could run our tanks right away that they captured from the Iraqi army, the army personnel carriers, and the MRAPs, and they're very sophisticated at raising and also managing money.
General, you sent me a story this morning on my email. It was from Claire, and I don't know Claire's last name, but it's okay. Ex-CIA employee admits President Obama is a radical Islamic enemy of America. And I'm just going to ask you the question, General. I mean, do we literally have an enemy inside our camp, and is he sitting in the White House? I mean, is that accurate?
Absolutely, and his national security staff as well.
That's sobering, General. That's a sobering statement for you to make.
Well, look at the damage he's done.
Oh, I don't disagree with you.
Look at all the scandals. Look at the cover-ups. Look at the lies. Look at the deception. Wait till you see what comes out the week after next on Benghazi that our Benghazi Commission has put together. You're going to really be stunned. But he does not believe in the Constitution. He is borderline treasonous for sure, which means he should be impeached. He is cajoling with the enemies, bringing the Muslim Brotherhood into the White House and other parts of our government. He was born of a Muslim father, which makes him a Muslim. And so he has sympathy to the Muslim Brotherhood, which he supported in Egypt, which he supported in Libya, which he supported in Syria. The pattern's there. He's created it. And that's reality. And that's not propaganda that anybody's putting out. His actions and performance speak for themselves.
General, I want to ask you one more question before I have you give out some websites and stuff. I know that you're going to be busy leaving, and I don't want to hold you up. Do you think? What do you think, General, is the next step here for our listeners out there? What should we do? I mean, we all want to step up. We all want to see this. The direction America's going in is not good. What would you recommend? I know Stand Up America, the website that you have, and I'll have to give that out, is a great start. What do you think? Is it phone calls to congressmen? Is it just hitting them with emails? I mean, what can we do to get it through these people's heads to stop the direction things are going in?
Well, number one, read, understand, and try to understand what's happening in the world. The vast amount of people that I talk to, even very educated people, don't have a clue what's going on. And so we bring in speakers, as you know, for the Glacial Forum to educate and update people on what's happening in the world in many different areas, domestic economics as well as national security. It's very important, the election coming in November, that we put better people in government that are Americans first before they're Democrats or Republicans, and that they vote and they support a smaller government and a government that provides national security for our people. And so that's why I would fire this whole national security team, and America ought to be standing up asking the same thing, because they're not doing their job and they should be fired. Now, the other thing is to press forward and ask for a no-confidence resolution passed by Congress of this national security team and the president, which then could lead to an impeachment. I mean, he is just violating, bypassing Congress at every opportunity with executive orders. And then you have a very weak leadership in Congress for the most part, and both Democrats and Republicans. And No, I don't think so, but that's what we should be pressing for. If they had any cojones or courage, that's what they would be doing, but they won't.
General, one more, if you'll indulge me. I know that you have a lot of people that you're still friends with that serve right now. I mean, and a lot of them are good, patriotic Americans like yourself. They have to be just jumping out of their skin I mean, these hardcore guys got to just be hating how things are going right now.
Oh, the reports we're getting in from our armed force members is horrible. They're not re-enlisting. They won't re-enlist under this administration. Even more of the senior officers now and NCOs are starting to stand up. But the 4-stars really need to stand up and be counted. And we saw how General Dempsey a week before last really inspired the situation in ISIS and the threat against America. And then he backpedaled last week because of the pressure from Vallely, Jarrett, and the White House. And so if we don't have strong 4-star commanders, generals and admirals standing up now and saying, we're not going to buy into this weakening of America and purging of our military, this is it, we're going to take a stand. But they seem to be more concerned about their own position and preserving, any potential promotions. And that's not right. No, that won't cause that, though it's been rumored out there that he'll create martial law, but that would be more from internal strife and domestic situations rather than attack from outside.
General, if you could, before you go, give us any websites, YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebook, anything like that, where the listeners out there can find out more about you, please, sir.
Yeah, well, you can just Google Stand Up America. We're on Twitter and Facebook. And our website is standupamericaus.org. We had asked everybody to get behind us, join Stand Up America, donate where you can to help us out. We have a lot of good people working for Stand Up America out there. That's why a lot of the intelligence we get in Stand Up America, you'll see on TV and radio, as we provide people in the media the intelligence data they need before they go on and give an interview. I've been doing primarily Newsmax TV now, which is channel 223 on Dish, and they're only 9 weeks old, but I would ask everybody to go to Newsmax and watch. They're really a great TV channel now and bringing up-to-date news around the world every day. So many
General,
people don't know about it yet.
General, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you you coming on here at such late notice. You're a good friend of the show. We thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. Be safe. I know you'll be stepping out for a while, but be safe on your journey. And we hope to see you back here in the Flathead Valley in not too long of a time, General.
Well, that's great. I'll be speaking September 18th in Kalispell on ISIS in the Middle East. So hopefully we can get a good turnout for that. Yeah, super. Well, thank you, gentlemen, very much. I appreciate you having me on as a guest.
You're very welcome, General. Godspeed to you, my friend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now. General Vallely. Yeah, it was. He's got his. He knows what's going on there. I mean, you got to figure. Being as long in the, and I knew he was going to answer that. I knew that the current serving people in the military were just incensed. That's what's going on. I know they're just probably these old war hawk guys. These old school guys. They just got to be like. I mean, you just got to hate things, man. Just hate it. Well, you don't get to be a major general by being a talker. You get that way by being a doer. So at least I would think. I've never been a major general, but I can't believe it's they hand them out like like they do lollipops. I mean, it's got to be you got to be a certain breed, I think, to get to that level. Excellent, Jason. Yeah, I actually tried to say to him in the beginning, General, can you speak into the mic? But my mute was on. And you picked up and started talking, right? So I was here talking to nobody again. Damn mute button. Pardon my language. So that's interesting. I didn't really know that. I have to say that I didn't really know that Stand Up America. I mean, I knew he had a lot of contacts, of course, but I didn't realize that some of the information that they provide is utilized by. It sounds to me like mainstream type people utilize that data before they give interviews and stuff like that. So that's interesting, for sure. Well, I was glad to hear him say, and I hope he's right. I was glad to hear him say that he doesn't think NATO is going to get involved, because we don't really want NATO getting involved, man. I mean, if NATO gets involved and like the war breaks out and with NATO and Russia, that's just not going to end well. I mean, that's just, let's hope cooler heads prevail. Do I think there's going to be a time when there'll be a world war? Another one? Yeah, I do. I hope it's not now. But, Jason, I mean, if you just look back over the last 5 years, just how much these things have accelerated as far as it seems like it's so hard to keep up. We both analyze the news. It's been hard for us to keep up sometimes, man. Anyway, I'm just rambling.
Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
All right, and welcome back to the Liberty Brothers Radio Show, Hour 2. Well, folks, as I try to do every second hour, we try to encourage everyone to support this radio station. It really is imperative. As we are growing leaps and bounds, it costs more and more money for us to stay online, and we're getting that information out there. We're bringing in great guests like General Vallely. And if you like what you're getting, whether it's with our show or any of the other shows that you're listening to, it's imperative that you do your part to help keep us on the air. We are all listener supported. We do this as a labor of love. None of the producers or on-air personalities get paid at all. So please help us stay on the air. Help us bring you this great resource that we have here with the alternative media. And go to freedomslips.com and click the donate button. It really does make a difference. So, all right, Jim.
So you don't get paid, Jason?
I don't.
Oh man, that sucks.
I go build cabins to do that.
Yeah, right on. Coming up here on the second hour today, we are going to have. Did we already make this announcement? Jeff Ball, private
we
Attorney General.
Yeah, we touched on it briefly in the first hour, but go ahead.
Yeah, as Jason said, we met this gentleman and his colleague down in Bunkerville. How's that, Jason? Nevada.
Much better.
And he's a very, very, very intelligent, very mild-mannered, very articulate guy who's really, if people don't know really what a private attorney general is, it'd be good to listen to the second hour here, because the way I was told, there's three types of attorney generals. There's like the federal attorney general, like Eric Holder. There's your state attorney general. And then there's a private attorney general. Now, I don't know if he certainly wouldn't have as much power as Eric Holder does, I wouldn't think. Unless he can, run guns illegally across the border with immunity. Other than that, I think it's a good thing. Is that you Skyping me, Jason?
Yep.
Okay.
It was.
I thought it was Jack. He's probably, if Do you have him? Do you have him linked up yet, Jay? Do you have Jeff linked up on Skype?
Yeah, we're good to
go. Bring him up. Bring him up. He's ready to
go. All right. Let's see here.
So did you? What are you gonna do any? Wait, is this him?
We're adding him right now.
Okay.
You chat too.
Are you call? Okay, I can't hear if you're calling him.
That's all Skype. So I believe Jeff, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Jeff, welcome to the Liberty Brothers Radio Show. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, Jeff, how you doing? This is Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Joining me on the line is Jeff Ball. I'm gonna read your bio here, Jeff. I'm gonna do the best I can. Born in 1967 in a small town in East Tennessee. He's 49 years young. Self-taught. He had 15 years of law study. Specialized in contract, common law, and currencies. Just started interfacing with the public a year ago. He is a common law grand jury supporter, no political party involvement, a secured party creditor, and a private attorney general. Conservative yet open-minded. He's a dog lover, an avionics specialist, and a manufacturing engineer planner by de facto trade. Jeff Ball, thanks for joining us today on the Liberty Brothers.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
You're quite welcome.
So what would you like to talk about today?
Well, if you could, for the benefit of the listeners out there that may not be aware of you or your work, if you could just give us a brief background on yourself, why you decided to. Now, I was told, Jeff, that there's three types of attorney generals. There's the federal attorney general, the state attorney general, and then the private attorney general. If you could just tell a little bit about yourself and maybe kind of give us a little bit of a background on what exactly is a private attorney general, because I think that, like myself, before I met you, most listeners probably don't know what that is.
Well, thank you. Yes. Well, the private attorney general is a lawyer, somebody who's well-versed in the law, and we operate from the de jure side of the fence. As most of your listeners probably know, there's de facto and there's de jure. De facto is what most people interface with every day, and that's the other attorney generals. But the private attorney generals deal with, I guess, are the fighters for the private side. So,
what are where are you on the map, and what's the private attorney general group's four corners of the map, if you could?
Okay. Well, I have a little bit of a philosophy that I've put together over the years. And one thing that I see that's being missed and not a lot of people are talking about out there is that you have to know where you're at on the map, and you have to know who you are before you do anything out there in the commercial world. So establishing yourself and your status and standing is very important. And knowing where you're at on the map is very important. So here's the PAG's four corners of the map. Jurisdiction is one. Number two is presumption. Number three is consent. And number four is injured party or claimant. So let's say that the scenario is that you're dealing with the courts and you haven't injured anybody, yet you're being pulled in and being somebody's, the government or somebody's making a claim on you. Well, one thing we have to remember is that we don't have to give jurisdiction, and that's ours to retain. So if we don't want a court or a judge to decide something for us, we don't have to give that consent. There really are no judges. They're all administrators. And administrators get their power from your consent. It's like both parties of go ahead.
Well, before you go on for a second here, let me stop for a second, because I think what you're saying is just a sort of a revelation, and I don't want to just roll over it. Are you saying that you retain your personal jurisdiction, and the only way someone else can take it from you is if you give it to them, pretty much, right? I mean, are you saying
Yes.
that you don't have to appear if you get sent a summons? You don't have to appear before the judge. I mean, is that the type of stuff you're talking about?
Well, here's the deal. The question you have to ask yourself, and this is about figuring where you're at on the map, is have you injured anybody? Okay, so you're going to fall in either one of two categories here. This is the tree, the fork in the road. Have you injured somebody? Is there someone, a flesh and blood human being, who has brought a claim against you that you've injured? And if the answer to that is no, okay, if the answer is no, and the only person who has charges against you is not a person but a corporation, whether it be a municipality or a regular corporation, if the answer is you haven't injured anybody, then why would you give up jurisdiction?
If you could just, there might be a disconnect. Could you explain what the map is? You don't mean like a physical map, right? What is the map?
Well, since there's four corners to this theory, or not really theory, but presentation that I have here, jurisdiction is important, presumption and consent, and is there an injured party? If you haven't injured anybody, then you're not in contract. Okay? There is no contract, and there is no injury, so there is no case. If there is no case, there's no jurisdiction. So, if you go in and you give jurisdiction and you allow the presumption to continue that there is a contract, then you will most likely always be presumed against in the wrong way, so for the other guy. So.
This sounds to me like it's sort of, I say complicated, but it sounds to me like it, I did a recording for a guy named Ron Gibson here. I'm not sure if you know Ron, sometime back. And he talked about, for example, all of the municipalities are incorporated, and he made a statement to me that, and then that's why we have our names in capital letters. He made a statement under me, and you're an attorney. He made a statement at the conference. I'm going to ask you. He said that there's a rule in the law that unless you cannot rule over something unless you've created it. You don't have any jurisdiction over it unless you've created it. And he says that's why each one of us have all capital names, because we are the state, the county or the state's incorporated, and we are more or less like employees, I guess, in lack of a better term. I mean, you get where I'm coming from on that, Jeff? I
do, and let's break that down. This is kind of a new way of thinking. It'll be new for a lot of people, but it can be done. And once you get it, it's very simple. Okay, it's just getting there is the hard part. But just in the statement that you said there, somebody claims that if they create you, that they control you. Well, that's a great declaration, but did you agree to that contract?
No, I didn't agree to it.
Okay, and that's the presumption part. See, they're going to presume that you're in contract with all these different municipalities and entities, all right? And if you allow them to continue to presume this, and you don't rebut it and withdraw your consent, then that's why a lot of people are losing on their battlefield.
He told me that Jason, I know I'll let you jump in here in a minute. He told me that he hasn't had a driver's license in like 20 years. Are you saying that because you go in there, and I'm just using this as an example, let's say you go in there and because you sign up for a license and sign your name on all the proper documentation, are you at that point technically like you're buying in, you're kind of giving in, and you're like you're admitting that they have control over you? Is that kind of what you're saying in a way?
Well, let's look at it from a contractual side. Okay, we go in and we submit to that contract because it's widely held that you have to have a driver's license. Well, I'm not telling everybody, your listeners, to run out and do away with your driver's license. I still have one. But you got to understand that the driver's license is for a commercial capacity. And if you're not driving and you're not making money and you're not in a commercial capacity, then you're not driving, you're traveling.
That's what he said too. He said the same thing. He said a driver's license is only for someone that's a commercial entity. He also said, and this is going to be a shocker to anybody that's listening that's with the government. He also said that that people like regular cats like us are not subject to income tax because we're not federal employees. Are you familiar with that? You're probably very familiar with that as well, right?
Well, yeah. If you get down in Title 26 and you break down the definitions, you'll see it. But again, let's hit it from a contractual side. Now, I'm not telling everybody not to stop paying their taxes tomorrow either. So, but just look at it like this: the IRS is presuming. There's the word again, presuming that you're okay with the contract. Well, what contract? Is there a signed contract that you agreed to pay anything to the IRS? I don't have one. I'd like to see one.
No. So you filling out your let's say you work at a large corporation, you fill out your tax forms. Is that the same as agreeing to a contract? Or is that basically the same as agreeing to a contract?
Well,
I guess?
It's evidence of a contract. It's not the contract. And there's maxims about contractual relationships. One of them is there has to be equal consideration. Another one is there has to be full disclosure. So in other words, that means you have to know exactly all the elements to the contract for both parties. And, if you don't know that, and that voids the contract. There is no contract. And if there's no equal consideration, what that means is, are you profiting off of the agreement and the contract, or is one side of the party contract profiting more than you are? Well, most of us can say that, we're not getting a cut of the cake as citizens or people, men and women on the land. Okay, so technically, by contractual law, it's an equal contract, and therefore it's null and void.
Now, Jeff, this Jason, and I'm sure, much like myself, this is very new material for a lot of our listeners. Maybe not a lot of them, but some of them anyway. What's the best way? Because I've kind of grown up under the assumption that what is supposed to be law, they can come after you for and whatnot, and not really having a good understanding as to how things are working. Just kind of, as you said, presuming that the system is doing things how they should be. What's one of the best ways people can start becoming better educated about this whole topic?
Well, unfortunately, there's no one place to go and get all this information, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk about these things today, because these things here that I'm talking about are key and pivotal. And if you don't have them, if they're not the base of everything that you're doing in the commercial world, this is why so many of us are failing. This stuff is your foundation. You have to know this frontwards and backwards. And once you get it, once the light bulb goes off, it's not difficult. You see, we've been taught to think that law is complex and difficult. It's not. The basic concepts of law are not difficult. It's all the statutes and codes and regulations that they throw in afterwards that get confusing. And really, once you realize that codes and statutes all are consensual laws. In other words, you have to consent to them for them to apply to you.
Now, is what you're talking about rooted in our Constitution? I imagine it probably is. And if so, can you go over that portion of it, if you don't mind, for us, Jeff?
Yeah, sure. Well, up in Washington State, there's some very good code up there, and one of the codes up there written, I think it's 42.030.56, I believe. It clearly states that the people of Washington are not slaves to the public servants, and the public servants are not their masters. I'm paraphrasing, but it does use that verbiage and that language. Okay, so it's very important, because a lot of us believe that so many things are law, but it's not law. Let's take the U.S. Code, for example. Most everybody is charged under U.S. Code, okay? But see, it's called U.S. Code because it's not law. If it was law, it'd be called U.S. law, Okay, it's code, and when you understand what code and statutories and regulations and rules and public policies and things, they're not law. That's why they're code and statute, and therefore they require the consent of you to have effect. So if you really want to look at the U.S. Code right now, okay, tell me what law is governing everybody.
Is it basically, is it color of law? Is that what a code is really? Is a color of law? It's
yes, it is. It is. It is a color of law, and what that term means is that it looks like law, it talks like law, walks like law, but really it has no power over you unless you give your consent. And that's what we're not doing in the courts when we go in and there's no injured party. Now keep in mind, this doesn't necessarily work if you've injured somebody. If you've got somebody that says, hey, you stole my car, or you broke my fence down, or whatever the problem may be, then you've got an injured party, and a lot of these things that I'm talking about does not apply to that. However, if you do not have an injured party, and if it's a municipality that's trying to claim that you've caused harm, now that's what I'm talking about, okay? You can withdraw. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to just ask, so if someone is having something brought up against them, do they need to find an attorney in their area that is versed in the way that you are? I mean, is that kind of the best route to take, or do they need to try to represent themselves? What's the best way for people to go about figuring out how to learn more about the system? Is it through an attorney?
Well, attorneys won't agree with much of what I'm saying here. A lot of what I'm saying, it'll be new information to attorneys, and they won't understand it. Perhaps some of your contract attorneys will get what I'm saying, but even some of your judges might not understand what I'm saying here, but a lot of them will. So going to an attorney and asking him for this type of information, you're going to get laughed at, because that's how strong the illusion is. They've had well over 100 years in this country alone to establish all this.
Do you think, Jeff, tell us about kind of following up with Jason's question.
Mm-hmm.
If someone wants to hit this head on, like it sounds like you're doing, is the best? I mean, I know you have the PAG, the Private Attorneys General Group. Is that correct? The PAG?
Yes.
Is that
yes.
right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is it safe to assume that anyone that was a member of that PAG organization would have the same type of mindset that you would have, and would know the same type of contract law and things that you know? Is that pretty safe to assume?
Well, any private attorney general should know these things that I know, but I'm pretty aware that there's some out there that don't have might not have a good clear or the clarity that I have on it. So the PAG is just mainly right now a consulting firm, and we consult to other private attorney generals and to other people who just want, who have basic questions, and they're trying to clear away all the mud and all the disinformation that's going on out there.
Go ahead, Jason.
Now, again, kind of coming back, if someone finds himself in legal trouble, they haven't harmed anyone,
right.
Because the wool's been pulled over our eyes so much already in the past, as you mentioned earlier, are they going to be able to get a fair trial and be able to get, through this? Do they still have to play by those rules, or are they just kind of disregarding the rules these days?
Well, unfortunately, that's a good question, by the way. Unfortunately, a lot of times if you go in by yourself and you know these things and you try to apply them, you'll get ignored. Especially at first when you're new to this. So the problem is that the courts don't like for you to know things, especially more than they know. So they won't take a liking to you. So it's very important that you do it a correct way. You do it respectfully and matter-of-factly. And, if they rule the wrong way, don't get angry.
If they do rule the wrong way, is there a recourse that we can take? Oh, did we lose someone? Jim, are you still there?
I'm here, but it sounded kind of weak.
Oh, maybe it looks like Jim or John may have. Well, it looks like I'm still on the air, and I think I still have Jim. Looks like we're trying to connect back up with Jeff, so we'll give him a few minutes here.
Hello?
Yep, Jim, you're back.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what in the world happened there. Funny. Anyway, sorry about that. Did I miss a question?
Nope, we're trying to get Jeff back on, so bear with us, folks. It always seems as soon as we start getting into the good information, something happens with Skype. You gotta wonder.
Yeah, well, Jason, I'd like to think that we were important enough for them to have their eye on, but who knows?
I don't know. It seems like such a coincidence at times, and I don't believe in coincidence all that much anymore. But we'll try to get him back up.
Just to recap, I know that a lot of the same things that Jeff is saying here, and I'm hoping to. I see where it says call dropped, Jason, on my end. Hopefully I can talk to Ron Gibson. I did like a 6.5 or 7 hour presentation for him, and he talks about all this stuff throughout the video. And I'm hoping that he gives me the opportunity to publish it. I haven't been able to yet, but what this guy is saying in this video is pretty much the same thing that Jeff is saying. His internet man went down. I have a phone number for him if you want as a backup.
Go ahead and
I think I sent it to you earlier, Jason.
Okay, let me see if I've got that.
I sent it to you earlier his backup phone number. If you can't find it, I can probably find it for you here. I'm trying to scroll through the Skype. Actually, I think I sent it to you back before here. I'll hit it for you in a minute.
All right, looks like his internet might have gone down. So let's try to get him on the phone line. I've got it right here.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay, good. Anyway, the same
go ahead
thing.
And keep calling while I do or go ahead and keep going while
Yeah, the same thing he talks about is what I got on this video that I did the 6 or 7 hours worth of video for this guy Ron Gibson, and it's it really is back to back, and he's really knows the stuff. His stuff that he talks about, but the stuff that he talks about is the same thing that Jeff talks about, that we've talked about here with Jeff. It all seems to be accurate.
All right, let's try adding him again using the other phone line.
Okay. Cell phone backups, gotta love them. Sometimes it takes them 4 or 5 rings to answer.
Hello?
Hello, Jeff. This is Jason and Jim. We got you back now?
Hey. Yes, we do.
Sorry about that. Something happened where always when things are getting interesting, it seems Skype acts up.
Yes, it does. It happens a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so...
Okay, great.
I got a question for you, Jeff. I don't know what part maybe the same theme that yours had, Jason. Let's say that we have like Jason said, you have an issue here, Jeff, where you find yourself to have to go before court and you haven't injured anybody. Would you call a private attorney general just like you would call like a regular attorney? Was that something they would come and represent you like a regular attorney would, or would they just consult with you and tell you how to do it yourself?
Well, you as a person, you see the attorneys and the judges, they want to tell you that you have to have a license to practice law. Well, we're not practicing law. Well, we are the law. We perfect the law. Okay? So that's why you see signs that says attorneys at law. They're at the law, but they're not engaged in the law. Okay? This goes back to wordsmithing and tweaking the words and everything. So they cannot have a patent on law. So in other words, everybody can be a lawyer. Let's look at the definitions. The definition of an attorney is somebody who returns property, takes property from one and gives to another. And the definition of a lawyer is quite simple. It means somebody who's versed in law.
Yeah, I mean, don't we have a natural law right to? We have a natural law right to defend ourselves, not only, let's say, against some sort of a physical attack, but we have a natural law right to defend ourselves against a personal attack or like a libel attack or something of that nature, don't we?
Right, because if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, you can't practice law," well, number one, I'm not practicing. Number two, where's that contract at? I never agreed to that. Only somebody crazy would agree that they're not allowed to defend themselves. So show me the contract and bring it forth for my inspection.
Yeah, that sounds like something you. That sounds like something you're using a lot, Jeff. I mean, is that like it sounds like that's the linchpin statement. Show me the contract. I mean, is that literally you can say that? Show me the contract. If they can't show the contract, are you saying you're not subject to it? Is that right? If they don't have a contract that you signed, you're not subject to it by the law? Is that what it sounds like?
Well, we've already covered that U.S. code's not law; it's code. Okay. So you just said by law. Well, what law? Well, what is the law? What's the main law in play right now? Wouldn't it be commercial
Constitution,
law?
right?
It'd be even beyond that, something that's bigger than the Constitution, believe it or not, and that is contractual law. What's the Constitution? It's an evidence of a contract. It's not the contract, not for men and women. It is the contract for public servants, however.
Now we've got
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. We've got a question out of left field for you from one of our listeners who just sent me a message. They're asking, failure to pay child support since no one has been injured, therefore there is no jurisdiction and the presumption is false. There is no injured party and the claim is null and void. Would that be correct in the case of, say, unpaid child support?
Well, they're going to come back and say, now you're dealing with other people.
Right. I would say they could make a case that the child could be injured by not paying it.
That's right. And that's what I said at the beginning of this. If you've not injured anybody, you might not be injuring your child or your wife or your ex-wife, but if you fail to support them in any way, then that could be construed by the courts and will be construed by the courts as injury to them. So like I said in the beginning, if you've injured nobody and if you're not in a contract, then what I'm talking about applies. And what I'm speaking of applies to 90% of the cases that's going on right now.
You know, Jeff, I never signed a contract with the IRS for them to take 37% of my wages either. Now that I think about it, I never signed that contract.
Well, no, you didn't. And if you go through the tapes of the recent directors being put on spot, there's I think it's on YouTube. Put forth, you can find it. But one of the directors actually admits that paying taxes is voluntary, and it is. It is voluntary because you didn't properly withdraw your consent, so they get to presume that you're okay with the contract.
So I need to send a letter to the IRS and tell them that I no longer want to be involved in any contract relationship with them at all? I mean, is it that simple?
Well, I don't want to tell you to do that and create enemies for myself, but if you want to call me and speak with me and we can consult about it, because you're fully within your right to call and consult with anybody you want to about any of your affairs. There's no patent on the law. You can talk to anybody. You can have a special master come into court with you. You can have a first friend come into court with you to help you represent yourself or present yourself. So,
is that right? You can bring a friend. Yeah. You can bring a friend in court with you, and they can actually go on the stand with you, or not on the stand maybe, but they can actually sit in the box with you and help you.
Of course, yeah. It doesn't have to be an attorney. Now, they'll always. This is the extent that the courts go to get an enemy sleeping in your camp. Okay, they'll tell you up and down that you have to have an attorney. You do not. Did you agree to that contract anywhere? Did you sign a piece of paper saying I will always have an attorney? No, you didn't. They'll even go to the extent of going, we'll provide one for you. We'll pay for it. Well, now, why would they do that? Because an attorney on your side of the fence is the enemy sleeping in your camp. Now, I'm not saying that all attorneys are bad, and I'm not saying all the judges are bad, okay? There are good people out there that are judges and attorneys, okay? But they're not enough. There need to be more.
I can't argue with you on that at all.
So how do we get more then? How do we go about educating younger attorneys and whatnot to the truth of things? What do you think there?
Well, unfortunately, the law system as it's set up right now, it doesn't help them. It hurts them. So you're not going to really. It's going to be difficult to untrain one. The best thing to do is, number one, become knowledgeable yourself, and then number two, pass that knowledge that you learn about the law to your kids. All this didn't come about overnight. They've had well over 100 years just in this nation to get things where they're at right now, and it won't be tore down overnight. But generation by generation, if we adhere to this living standard of knowing everything about the law that we possibly know and then pass it down to our children. You see, what's remarkable is that the way the law affects in every day, you interface with it commercially, contractually, but yet there's nothing taught in the elementary schools, the high schools, nothing. You barely get an economics class in high school.
So again, how would someone like myself start learning about it? I mean, do I need to start reading law books? Do I need to start reading law books that are 100 years old? Are there any websites that go over this type of stuff? What's the best way to start learning about the law to a layman?
Well, the best way is come to my website and hang out.
Well, what's
I got
that?
a lot of things that'll help you. Well, it's www.thepag.org.
PAGG?
And it's THEPAGG.org.
PAGG. All right, I'm putting that up in the website or the chat room there.
There's like I was saying, Jason. There's no real one place to go get all this information because it's been construed and throughout all over the universe. So, but I believe that things that I know and the things that many people out there know. But there's a lot of people, probably your listeners, that know exactly what I'm talking about. There's knowledgeable people out there, but there's a lot of people that are out there playing the game set by the rules of the court. And man, I just don't see how you can win that way. Unless you know these foundations that I have that I'm telling you about. And there's more. There's a lot more. But it's all easy. Once the light bulb goes off in your mind, in your head, all this color law, you're going to see right through it, man.
Well, Jeff, I don't doubt that you're correct. To convince me that things aren't what they appear is not going to be a very hard sell. Trust me. But my thought is, I think it was brought up previously. My only fear, and I say fear, but my only thought would be that no matter how smart you get, how much you study up, they're gonna dismiss you. I mean, you really do. Obviously, it's gonna sound like a dumb question, but I mean, the law is on your side, right? I mean, you have the law on your side ultimately, even if they try to dismiss you or minimize you. Really, the law is on our side, right? As the people. I mean, the law favors more the people than it does the state. Isn't that the way it's supposed to be?
Well, it's supposed to be, but the law isn't applied with the right intent by the officers. Okay? So the judge is not necessarily looking out for your good, your benefit. He's looking out for his. And the attorney is looking out for his. The attorneys are all bar members, and they take an oath and swear to the bar. That's their first person to protect is the bar. So when you go hire an attorney, you're giving your money away a lot of the times to somebody who's not going to represent you fully. Now, again, I'm not saying all attorneys are bad, and there's a lot of attorneys out there helping people, so don't take it the wrong way. But be careful. You have to be wise and be cool.
Now, Jeff, it can seem like things are really stacked against us, and there's not much we can do, but our forefathers really kind of wrote into things a way that we can really make a difference. I was wondering if you might be able to talk a little bit about jury nullification and kind of the basis behind that and what it can be used to how it can be used to affect change.
Okay, well, understand this. The juries, the grand juries right now that are in place are de facto. the number one thing to learn is the definitions of de facto and de jure. Come to my website. It's right there for you. You can get it. Once you got that burned into your head, you'll see that a de facto grand jury is quite different than a de jure grand jury. You see, the de facto has pushed out the de jure grand juries. The de jure grand juries are the people who are put in place to indict criminal wrongdoing within our justice structure. Okay? And because they don't like people telling them what to do, even though we're their bosses, all right, we loan our sovereignty to them to do their job. And when they fail to do their job, we can remove their sovereignty and take it back. Okay? So that's good. You know, you're asking me, well, you can have all this knowledge and what good will it do you? Well, that's a good question. That's a good statement. And here's the answer, the way I believe it. I believe it's very important for us all to get together and learn and study about the grand juries and then come together and form the grand juries in each county. Because it's the de jure grand jury that we're forming, and the de jure grand jury usurps or overshadows the de facto grand jury.
Well, now, if you do a de jure grand jury, will they provide chambers for you to consult in? Will they provide all the information? I mean, will they, if you walk in with a group of 11 of your neighbors and say, we're a de jure grand jury, we want an office to do some work, and are they just going to say, get out of here before we arrest you? I mean, what's going to happen?
Well, that's a very good possibility, but remember, you know, the way you just said that, you said, will they provide? You know, well, no, because who are the real providers? The people. Okay?
I have to get used to that, Jeff. I have to get used to that, man. You're much more tuned in on that than I am, but you're right. It's ours. It's our stuff.
That's okay. We've all, I had to deprogram myself, and it took years. And, only in the last couple of years have I gotten a real good clarity on everything. So don't beat yourself up over it. Just, be conscious about it and fix yourself when you can, and then things will get a lot clearer for you. That goes for you and all your listeners. Remember that we, the people, are the ones who formed the government, and we are sovereign for the government. We created them, okay, and we can uncreate them, and we can change it the way we want. And I'm not against the government. I do know that we need a government, but we need the government doing the right things in the right way, and that's to protect the people, not to harm them.
What would you? What's the? Can people get out? Can people get out of these contracts? I mean, how can you remove yourself if people wanted to start removing themselves from some of these contracts that they may not even know they're in? I mean, and I'm just going to throw things out, like your Social Security number. Maybe do you turn that back in? What happens when you do that? Is that even possible? I mean, obviously, you maybe send the IRS a letter and say, I don't want to be involved in this relationship with you any longer. I'm just throwing things out. I mean, how do you remove yourself from these things, Jeff?
Well, that's a great question, and it can be done. I've seen it done. I know people who are on top of the system. Okay. And I know the basic structure of how to do that. Again, your birth certificate and your Social Security card, those are debt instruments. They've been securitized. And what that means is they've been monetized.
Whoa. Don't skip over that one. Hold on a minute. You got to hit, don't just, what now? What, come again on that? Could you break that down real quick?
Well, your birth certificate and your Social Security, they both have been securitized. They've been made into money. They've been monetized.
I haven't seen any of that money. I mean, I'm not trying to be a smart aleck, but how come I didn't get any of that money?
Well, you're thinking right now. So since you haven't seen a benefit from the contract, okay, would that be an equal consideration in the contract?
No.
No, it would be an unequal consideration. So since there's unequal consideration, is that contract now null and void? Yes, it is. It's that simple. It really is. Now, they're going to lie to you in court. Some of the bad judges will. Okay, they don't want you to know this. But it's the truth. You think about it long and hard.
We should be screaming this from the top of every rooftop, Jeff. I mean, if people learned what you just told us and they applied it, this whole criminal system would come crashing down in days. You know that, right?
Well, let's think about this. We don't necessarily want to crash the system in days. We don't want to do that. We do want to correct it. Okay. I don't think correcting or crashing the system down will do us any good. It will cause more harm than good. I think we need to slowly form our grand juries and start dealing with the corruption one by one. And then as the others see that the rules of the game are changing and that it's not okay to harm the people, their masters, okay, when others start seeing that it's not okay to do these things, then they'll fall in line. And that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, Jeff, I'm going to ask you something on end here. If I make a commitment to get a citizens grand jury or a de jure grand jury going here in the Flathead Valley, can I speak to you privately and get some assistance on doing that? Would you be willing to help me do that?
Oh, of course I would. And, there's a lot of people out there that all they do is they're working hard to form the grand jury. So you may be surprised. There's probably already somebody in your county that's working on it. So I can help you get in touch with them. Yeah, and that goes for everybody, all your listeners. There's probably somebody in your county that knows about the de jure grand jury and is working to get it, and he can put you in touch with those people.
So what kind of work goes into forming a de jure grand jury?
Well, the main, let me say this correctly. There's a lot of folks out there that are on their own, and they realize that the de jure people's common law grand jury is the way to go. So there are different pockets of groups out there, and a lot of them don't know about the others. And they're working their own thing. But one of the groups that I've been very pleased with is the National Liberty Alliance guys. It would be John Durash.
I've talked to them before, actually.
You have or haven't?
I have actually talked with them on the phone.
Oh, okay. Good. So those guys are working very hard in reaching all across the nation here in forming the grand juries. And, they need everybody's support. And, the best way to go into court, in my opinion, is not to go in court by yourself. Bring 100 people with you if you can. And the best way to gain that kind of friendship is to start working and forming your grand juries in your counties. You'll get around a lot of like-minded people that all realize that our justice system has failed. It has a real big problem that we have to correct. And the best way to do it is come together as a community, peacefully and justly, to slowly turn the table back in our favor the way it should be. The law is supposed to be there to protect us. I mean, number one, that's what the government tells you, right? The reason why everybody should or want to be a citizen is so that the U.S. government can protect you. Well, look at where we're at now. The biggest offender of the person has become the government. Okay, so we don't want to violently combat them or anything like that. We just want to be stopped. We don't want to be injured anymore, and we want to teach people the right law, the common law, the real law. So all these statutes and codes. So this is why we have our problems, right? Because of that.
Well, Jeff, we're coming up here towards the end of the show here, and I know we'll be hitting a hard break here in just a few minutes. But before we go, I want to make sure that you have an ample opportunity to give out any websites, Facebook pages, Twitter accounts, YouTube channels. If you want to give out an email that people can contact you at, if you so choose, anything you like, you have the floor.
Sure. Okay. Great. Okay, for everybody out there that needs to hear more of this and think you're ready and want the real stuff. So hit me up. My email is thepag@gmail.com. It's THEPAGG@gmail.com. And I have a small website. It's called www.thepag.org. And you can come there and just look around. And if you want access to membership, just send me an email and I'll get you on there. And I want to do a plug for the National Liberty Alliance guys. They've been working hard, and a lot of people are involved in that. And I am a supporter of the People's Grand Jury, and I do believe we need to bring it back. And I do believe it's a peaceful way to bring back justice and to keep the people being harmed any further. And I think it is a way. So I really hope it happens.
I have put their website up into the chat room. We should have put it in the comments as well for the video. Do you have any contacts over there we might be able to have on the show? Because I definitely would like to talk with them.
I don't, I do, but I don't know. They're very busy, so I don't know if they want to come on the show, but they might. So I'll tell you what.
We'll contact you later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Well, maybe I can drum you up a couple of people that wants to, because we got a lot of knowledgeable people. We really do. Better than me.
Well, Jeff, is there anything that you want to say before we go that maybe you didn't get a chance to say, or a topic perhaps that we didn't get a chance to cover? As we're closing out here with about 3 or 4 minutes left, if there's anything you'd like to bring up that you didn't get a chance to, now would be a great time for it. Go right ahead, my friend.
Okay, great. Just wanted everybody to know that you're all smart people. You can figure this out. Law is not as difficult as they tell you it is. It is really quite simple once you get these basic concepts down. Once you get the basic concepts and principles down, you can see through any lie that they're telling you. You really can. It's that powerful, and it's not that hard, or I wouldn't have figured it out. So, contact me and I'll help you the best I can.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your knowledge. And hopefully we'll have you on again sometime.
Okay, great. Sounds good. All right, fellas. Thank you very much.
Hey, Jeff, thanks so much. Appreciate it, brother. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
All right.
Well, there goes Jeff Ball.
Yep, and just as a side note, we did meet him actually down at Bundy Ranch. So, he's someone who's actually getting out there and active, when hot spots are arising, getting out to a location like we do.
I like the fact of his demeanor. He's a very sort of a Southern gentleman type of a, sort of a demeanor, and, very, very disarming. And I bet, that's... he's the right man for that position. I think Jeff does a good job from what I know, and he's very smart. And that's something, Jason, that, man, I wish I had that, and I will. I'm really going to try to start a citizens grand jury around here. If not, I'm going to support the guy that is trying to start one, because I've heard like 2 or 3 or 4 pretty smart people tell me we need to get this going here in the Flathead Valley, and your town too. I think you. I don't know if we've let people know this on air. Not that it's that big of a deal because we're radio, but have you announced that are you still deciding to come to the Flathead here, Jason?
Yeah, we're as long as we can figure out a way for me to continue making money. Absolutely, we're gonna try to make it down there, or up there, I guess would be the correct term. So, but we've got some things in the works may pan out, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll get you squared away before long, there, brother. Don't worry. But it'd be great to have you up here. We could actually do a show from the same studio, and we could hopefully incorporate a little bit of video down the line. I don't know. Of course, Revolution Radio doesn't. I don't think do video unless there's a channel I'm not sure of. I don't know about. But we could certainly get a live stream account or something and simulcast the show with no problem. I think that'd be great.
Would be good. So real quick before we go, we had a question kind of asked when the general was on, and I messaged out that we would just touch on it before we go. Bon had said in the chat room, what does imminent mean this year for a strike in the power grid? And I think the general was saying that they had found some paperwork on computers and whatnot. I guess it would be paperwork if it was on computers, but they found some documentation referencing striking the power grid, and I think we've already seen where they've had teams of paramilitary people actually testing out how vulnerable our grid is. I don't know if you've caught that, but over the last year or so, there have been incursions into fenced areas. There have been certain targets shot at, and it seemed as if they were very organized. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they were never caught. So they're definitely, and they were in multiple locations across the, I want to say the West and Southwest, but yeah, they've already been testing it, and according to General Vallely, it certainly seems that he's pretty certain they're already here. So I would definitely think that it would be a very scary proposition, especially if they're able to take down a good portion of the grid. We've talked about it before. If our grid goes down, folks, we're looking at going back to the 1800s with within 9 months, seeing 90% of the population go away through starvation. There's other way. I mean, even if the power grid goes down, if they just attack the power grids, and it's not like an EMP that fries the power grid across the country, it's not going to be good, but it's not going to be as bad. I mean, there's still going to be other options, but it's going to be very uncomfortable. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, no, I think it's a pathetic fact that there's just a matter of time, man, before it happens. This. I tell you one thing, man. I know it's not just this particular administration, believe me, but this government is just the government that we've allowed. Let's put it this way: the government that we've sat back on our fat rear ends and let take over are giving us exactly what we deserve. I'm sorry to say that, but it just frustrates the what out of me, Jason, that more people can't just stand up and realize the game that's being played on us, man. I mean, it just, we get what we deserve. I hate to say it, man. I love America. I love this country, but we're getting what we deserve, man. And that's something that then Ren Bodecker, when I asked him why he was going down to Bundy Ranch with us, being as old as he is, and having already done the service he's done for our country, he said, you know what? I'm just as guilty as everyone else. I have let this happen, and I've got to take responsibility for that. I've got to start putting things right. And that actually made a lot of sense to me and really hit home.
I would submit to you that Ren Bodecker is way less culpable than everybody else. I mean, this guy, like you said, has done his share. It's really up to us.
But it is true. I mean, all of us sat back and have been complacent over the last couple decades and really let this happen, And it's on us. It's on us to learn this stuff about law. It's on us to learn all of this and to make a difference.
It is indeed. I hear the buzzer coming up. Of course, we're not on tomorrow. We will be back with a blockbuster show on Wednesday. The guest we're going to have on Wednesday is going to blow the doors off the place. Jason, have a good day tomorrow.
All right.
We'll see you Wednesday.
See you Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks for joining us, folks, here on the Liberty Brothers.